Welcome to another installment of 5-Minute Tones. On today's video, we're going to revisit one of my favorite modded Marshall style amps on the Axe FX3, the Atomica High. I currently have it at the stock settings with my free cab IR over here. There is a dual delay and a gold plate reverb on the back end, but they are bypassed. I like this model so much. I had Cherrytone build me essentially an Atomica clone. It's called the Molecular. It has a few extra little features on it. And what I've been playing around with today is the Molecular amp, dialing it in with a load box, and kind of figured out a few little things on there that I can apply to this particular model in here. I'll show you how I like to dial it in basically. Let's start at the stock settings on here. Pretty much everything except the presence at 5. You also notice that Axe Edit has had a little UI overhaul. These switches, like the bright switch, are now horizontal. If you look at the ideal tab as well, they are in there. There's some things in different places, and particular models like, say, the Mark IV models now have the fat switch and the presence shift on this tone page over here. I digress though. Let's hear this amp at the stock setting. Gain, and it's darker than your typical 2203, 2204 stock Marshall circuit on there. If you just stick to the tone page on here, what I like is to bring the master volume down a little bit. I'll compensate by bringing this level control up, and kind of the magic settings for any Marshall style thing are always kind of put the bass, middle and treble around 1 o'clock. I actually like bringing the depth down quite a bit, and on the, I'm going to say the real amp, but again, it's a clone of the real amp that I had made. I've got 2 different bright switch values on there. The bright switch value that I normally use corresponds to the value that you get on the ideal tab over here, 1000 picofarads. So I quite like turning the bright switch on for this particular amp. Let's have a listen to it now. Definitely got that mid to late 80s modded Marshall thing going on now. The Atomica essentially is a Jose style modded amp, and on the Molecular that I've got, there's actually 2 different switches on there to engage this diode clipping. One uses a set of diodes, the other actually uses a set of transistors. So you get way less volume from the amp, but you also get way more gain. So the way I've found to emulate that is just to turn the saturation drive over on the preamp tab up. Furthermore, on the Molecular, I had them add a girth switch, which is just a negative feedback control on there. I say switch, I mean a girth knob on there. Great name for a knob, isn't it? I digress. What I like to do here is just turn the negative feedback on the amp model down a little bit over here. Let's have a listen to what this sounds like. There's a lovely amount of compression and there is plenty of hair on the tone there. It might sound a little bright in isolation, but you chuck that into a mix. Again, if you're going for that 80s hair metal tone, works really, really nicely on there. And this one is just super satisfying to play under the fingers. So to recap, for getting here, I like turning the master down, tweaking these tone control pages to where you like them with your particular guitar, flicking the bright switch on to get more of that sizzle and hair on the tone, and then these saturation controls in the preamp tab. That's going to be your virtual Jose mod on there. Like I said, on my molecular, I like the setting that has way more saturation and gain. So I like turning the saturation drive up. And then of course you can play around with the speaker impedance curves and the negative feedback in the power amp section over here. That is all for today's installment of 5-Minute Tones. I will put this preset up. It will be linked in the video description. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, my Patreon and the music that I make with my band Ragdoll are linked in the video description. I'm going to turn the mix on this delay up a little bit and play you all out with a wonderful Atomica High. Have a great day.